Rogers. I'm
Gonna
going to
do that.
start that again. My name is Lauren Rogers. I work at the national offices of the Presbyterian Church USA. I am working in the Office of Stewardship and Funds Development. We actually just renamed ourselves. You may have known us as Ministry Engagement and Support. However, when we were going around saying we were Ministry Engagement and Support, people weren't quite sure what that meant. And sometimes we didn't either. So, stewardship and funds development better reflects the work that we do, which is raising money to support the mission and ministry of the church. I serve, I am about to assume the role of Associate Director of Funds Development starting on Monday. So I'm kind of in this hybrid period right now. So I don't know what title to give you tonight, but very, very excited to be with y'all. Storytelling is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, as is stewardship. Growing up, my dad always thought I was going to be a journalist. I'm just incredibly moved by not only hearing people's stories, but being able to share people's stories as a person of privilege, and being able to lift up voices that sometimes are otherwise silenced or marginalized. So something that is really close to my heart, and it's something that I've been able to kind of key into in my work as a fundraiser at the national offices. So I am going to share my screen and we'll jump in. If you can give me a thumbs up if you see it. Perfect. All right. Tonight, I'm going to talk about why storytelling matters for your church's financial health. It also just matters not for your financial health, but also just for morale, and other kind of congregational vitality reasons. So I'm so excited that y'all are all interested in this. You may already be, familiar with a lot of this, but it's always nice to have a refresher. And later in the evening, I'm going to welcome your ideas as we kind of talk with one another about things that have worked well, things that have inspired us, all of that. So, just a little bit of a preview of our agenda. Yes. So we've already done the welcome. We're going to go to why storytelling is important, and then we'll talk about constructing a narrative, when and how to tell your story, and that's when we'll kind of talk about different examples of storytelling in the church. Then we'll practice in breakout groups. And depending on how many are in the Zoom at that time, we'll figure out what kind of number. But I'll give each of you a scenario, each group a scenario to practice with, and then we'll close with some final tips and Q&A. So does that sound good? Great. All right. So, what is storytelling? When you think of storytelling, please throw in the chat words, or phrases or people that you might think of. Let's see. I cannot see. There we go. Wonderful. Yes. Absolutely. Teachers, parents. Great. Well, a couple of things that y'all have already highlighted here that I would love to highlight for you, is storytelling is the common thread that brings us all together. Storytelling, it has been is a practice as long as humans have existed. Of course, it has changed in or expanded in many ways that we've been able to be able to share stories, but it's the common thread that has brought humanity together for centuries. It involves a storyteller and a listener, making it interactive. So whether you're reading a book and it's between the author and you, or you're providing a sermon and it's between you and the congregation, there's always an interactive component. And then, as someone mentioned in the chat, parables. Storytelling was Jesus's choice of communication. So that is how he led much of his ministry, was through telling stories, through the parables, because it was a great way to get people's attention, and to move people's hearts. So scientifically, the reason that oh, I love that chance to hear a different perspective. Thank you. Scientifically, stories are remembered 22 times more easily than data, facts, and stats. Guaranteed, when you walk away tonight, you're going to remember some of the stories you hear more than you're going to actually remember this actual stat. But it's the truth. I know a lot of us are more kind of data driven people, more visual people, but on the whole, stories are more easily remembered. And that's because our neural activity increases 5 times when listening to a story. It's that interactive component. We are engaged, we are encouraged, we are in it, right? Because it engages our sensory cortex of the brain. And a good story allows us to feel, hear, taste, sometimes even smell the setting, the situation, being able to read something and feel so moved that you're actually tense with the character, or you're crying or laughing. It engages all these parts of us, and that's what makes it so powerful. But in the church, forget science for a second. In the church, it's so important because it enhances transparency and increases loyalty. Without storytelling, our members don't really know what we're doing and why we're doing it. Um, I think of folks who stand up in front of their congregation on Stewardship Sunday and, you know, just give the same old speech every year without saying really what the ministry of the work is. And that doesn't invite people in. And it also, it makes people sometimes wonder if they're not hearing anything at all. What's happening? What's happening at the office? What's happening with my funds that I'm giving? So it increases that transparency and loyalty. It empowers members and advocates. So when you're so moved by a story that you decide then to take action, and there are so many ways that you can take action with storytelling. I know tonight we're talking about your church's financial health, and that is one thing. You can always have that ask. Please make a gift, give generously. But storytelling can also empower your members to be an advocate, to volunteer, but they wouldn't know if you're not sharing that story in a way that is compelling and inviting. It creates stronger relationships and builds bonds. It touches people's hearts and makes your ministry more memorable. And I want to touch on this for just a moment, because I think that in using emotion is great. However, I warn folks to use it carefully because you don't want to come off as either inauthentic or taking advantage of the situation. So sometimes we get, so excited about possibly pulling at people's heartstrings or what have you, that we're being inauthentic, and we're telling the story for that purpose, to make people cry or emote or what have you, rather than sharing the actual mission that we're trying to get across. So I just try to warn folks, as you try to touch hearts, be careful with how you use emotion. Inauthentic. Yes. So, for example, I've seen many times where, let's say a congregation supports a local ministry, and they'll make up a character, for, saying, oh, we support this domestic violence center, and Susie, came to the center with her children and all this stuff. Susie, yeah, people like Susie exist, but there's really no Susie. And there's not, like, it's not a name change thing. It is an inauthentic story that you're trying to sell because you're trying to emote something from people. So I would be careful, tell stories, real stories about real people, and do so in a way that honors them and you. And then storytelling strengthens the church's mission. Again, if you are not constantly keeping your members up to date with what's going on and how your ministry is flourishing, then they don't know what to support. They don't know if the vision and the mission of the church is even something that they still stand behind. So continuing to reinforce that through storytelling is vital. And then we tell stories in so many different ways. I am going to take us back to school for a moment, talking about a typical way of storytelling. However, please keep in mind that this is just one way to tell a story, but it's something that I think is really helpful, especially if this is something that is brand new to you. I know this is very small. We'll zoom in just a moment. But I do want to give credit. This infographic is from Classy. Classy is a software company that helps nonprofits fundraise, and they've created this beautiful graphic to help other nonprofits tell stories. And so it might not seem super applicable to the church, but there is so much that we can learn from this. So telling a story, it starts with a character. Again, you want to talk about real people, not made up folks, not hypotheticals, but real people. Also, the character does not have to be a person. It can be your church. It can be your faith community. Just identifying who that main character is and setting the stage with details to, again, make folks feel, sense, taste, hear, buy into the story that you're trying to sell. Also establish their goals. What are they trying to accomplish here? This is this basic start to any story. Like I said, storytelling can look a lot of different ways, but this is kind of the most basic look at how to get started on that. And then you want a challenge, an obstacle, a villain. Another thing, villain doesn't always have to be a person. So it can be hunger. It can be dwindling membership. It can be so many things. So don't limit yourself and don't be afraid to share what some of the obstacles are. Because again, that increases transparency. People want to know about those obstacles so they know how you are going to overcome it. And so, again, it's also something that doesn't have to be so obvious. And it might take a little bit to figure out kind of what that conflict is or what that challenge is. But open your imagination. Again, it's not always black and white. And then you want to take action, empowering your community to take part. So you want to show how your mission, how your main character can overcome their obstacles. So that is inviting folks into the story, showing how they can help the main character, the church, whoever, accomplish those goals that they set out for themselves. So taking action, it's part of an invitation that then continues as the story comes to a close. It ends with impact. You want to empower your community to take part. So 4 parts. You start with that character, setting, establishing their goals. You then identify that challenge. You take action on that challenge, and then you show that impact. And this is something that is ongoing. At so many times, we stand in front of our congregations or our presbyteries and ask for a financial gift. And then we might follow up later, a couple months from now, and say, thank you so much, we gave this. The end. We never hear about it again. But this is supposed to be storytelling is ongoing. Continue the story. It does not have to be over. How are those funds used? How are you going to invite people to participate in other ways? How are you going to invite people to participate next year if you do a similar campaign? So often we say thank you and then we think that's it. But honestly, in my opinion, that story is just beginning. So be sure to make an ask of folks, whether that's a donation, whether that's a volunteer ask or sign this, petition, what have you, and then follow up after that so you can really see the impact that's being made. So there are how. Um, Nancy, can you clarify your question?
Yes, sorry about that.
Yeah, all good.
So we just went through this little thing. We had like a little mini campaign and people donated and we said thank you and wrote little thank you notes. I'm not sure what you mean if thank you is not enough, other than inviting them to come and see the windows.
Right, right. So
That's all I'm asking.
yes. So I want to be clear that thank you is enough to an extent, but people want to see their impact. And so if it was a campaign for Windows, following up when they're installed with a picture or something like that, a quote from a member about what this means to them. Um, it should not just be so transactional that it's just, here's my money, thank you, the end. It's an ongoing thing. In the case of a campaign for something like Windows, it's a little bit more cut and dry. But then I'm thinking about yes, yes, you'll get the slides. You'll get all of these slides. So I'll make sure you have all this information. But then, when you're talking about, for instance, 1 great hour of sharing, we think of 1 great hour of sharing as something that takes place during Lent, and then we don't think about it again for however many weeks. But we can all, including the national office, can do a better job of continuing to tell the story because it's not like those gifts come in March or April and then nothing happens. Work is continuously taking place, and we don't need to wait until the next 1 great hour of sharing to tell those stories, right? And so it's constantly sharing that impact. If you are working with a local organization and you invite them in to give a minute for mission one Sunday, following up a couple months from now saying, because of, they came, we saw increased giving. Thank you so much. Because of this, they've been able to do this. It's a great way to continue the conversation and help folks realize that giving doesn't always have to be just transactional. You're actually building a relationship, you're building a partnership, and you're inviting folks in. So, when and how to tell your story, there are numerous ways. These are just a handful, really, 2 handfuls. Preaching, minute for mission, during or before an offering, in your newsletter, on social media. A lot of folks do like a mission Sunday. And my suggestion is, can we use this when applying for outside grants? Yes. I'll clarify that in a little bit, but I believe so. If I understand your question correctly, yes. A lot of congregations do mission Sundays. And then again, you hear it one time a year and then it's done. Same with Stewardship Sunday, right? It should be a year-round thing. And so with particularly Mission Sundays, something that I encourage folks to do is do a follow-up about half a year in, say, these are the goals that we set for ourselves this year. This is what we've accomplished so far. Thank you. We still have this ways to go. It's a reminder of folks getting them to buy into your mission. And so, think of those special emphasis Sundays as more than just one Sunday, but something that you can implement all year long. There's dessert and dialogue, kind of fellowship after worship, Sunday school, testimonials, and a narrative budget. And if you're unfamiliar with a narrative budget, I can always provide a couple of examples for you. But it not only just provides numbers, but it explains the budget's purpose and how the funds will be used. So it's more of a story that illustrates how your monies will go to support the activities and programs. And we're seeing more and more folks do that. And honestly, they're becoming folks are then becoming more and more engaged, because, like I said, data. Some folks are data folks, but not all of us. Some of us don't know how to read a spreadsheet, and that is a-okay. But how would you want to pull at people's heartstrings and really invite them in? A narrative budget is a great way to do that. So I wanted to take a moment here and just open it up. Feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand or just unmute yourself. What are some good examples that you've seen of people telling stories in church or at Presbytery? Something that's maybe inspired you? Feel free to share. Oh, great. Webinar on a narrative budget. That's awesome. Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
we've done something at our church for per capita, where we've actually had a per capita awareness month. And then each week during Minute for Mission, a different person would come up, give their perspective, a little bit story on that. And we would try to have everyone, send in their per capita that month. And we would follow up at certain, junctures during the year, how we're doing collecting that money. And that's just something a little different that we did. And suppose it's just one day, we tried to make it a whole month with the goal of letting people know the benefits of that per capita expense.
That's amazing. Craig, I'm going to want to talk to you later because per capita is one of the hardest things to interpret. And, at the national level, we love to hear how folks do that. So that's great. I love to hear that.
Okay, great.
Great. Have a time each meeting where a church tells their story. Love. Anything else?
We one of our big fundraising efforts is the mission trip for our youth.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after they get back, we have a Sunday dedicated for them to share their experience so that the congregation can put a face on what their funds went to and how it impacted the youth.
Yeah. I love when congregations do that. And it also gives the youth an opportunity to stand up in front of the congregation, opportunity a lot of times they don't have otherwise. Great. Well, I'm going to provide just a couple of examples that I think are good examples of storytelling. The first one, I'm actually going to stop my share because I don't think I did this share with sound. Let's see. The first one is a video, and then share sound. Yes. The second one is a minute for mission that I'll share with you. So the first one comes from Indianapolis. This is Witherspoon Presbyterian Church.
Beloved, for nearly 2 centuries, Witherspoon Presbyterian Church of Indianapolis has been an oasis of hope.
For countless generations of faithful seekers
in need of refuge and community.
As one of the oldest African American
Presbyterian churches in the nation, we are an open
and affirming community of faith,
steeped in the Black religious tradition,
committed to social justice,
and empowered by the living gospel of Jesus Christ to transform the world,
one life at a time.
In the spirit of John 3:16, we are a whosoever community of faith.
meaning regardless of your age,
race,
faith journey,
ethnicity,
sexual orientation,
gender identity,
family makeup,
social status,
income,
ability.
or physical or mental health.
we welcome you
We welcome you.
we welcome you.
we welcome you.
with the unconditional love of Jesus the Christ.
Together, we are striving to become the kind of church described in
Acts 2:47.
where there is relevant teaching, heartfelt worship,
Authentic relationships, fervent prayer.
and compassionate care for those in need.
And so we invite all
All,
all
all, all, all
who dare believe to come and sit at the table of God alongside us as we light candles of hope.
seek the lost,
clothe the naked,
Offer refuge to the orphaned.
Care for the widow.
inspire the eager,
And empower the hearts of all. Welcome.
Welcome,
Welcome
welcome,
welcome,
welcome, welcome,
welcome.
welcome.
To Witherspoon.
Not again. So that is a great example, in my opinion, of a church telling who they are. It's evident. The second one I want to share is a minute for mission, which we all know are usually more than a minute. But I'm going to try to get through it quickly. This actually came out of another workshop that I did. In a moment, we'll have time to go into breakout groups. And so in this previous workshop, it was all people from the same congregation, and they were practicing different ways to tell their story. And so one young man wrote this. The ground is damp, and the pebbles underneath my body make it difficult to fall asleep. I toss and turn, searching for warmth in a thin sleeping bag, as the raindrops pelt the walls of an orange tent that has seen better days. My stomach starts rumbling. When did I last eat? But the sound is drowned out by nearby traffic. I've never felt so vulnerable. How am I expected to get any rest on these city streets? I can't help but think about each person passing by. Are they judging me, wondering what I did to get myself here? I flop over onto my back. More pebbles. Morning can't come soon enough. Mere hours later, the sun beams brightly and the birds begin chirping. I roll up my sleeping bag, pack up the tent, and away I go to have a warm breakfast at a nearby diner with friends, knowing that later that evening, I'll be able to climb into my cozy bed with my white noise machine and a roof over my head. But also knowing that there are tens of thousands in our community who cannot say the same. This was my experience participating in A Night Without a Bed. 4 of us from Faith Presbyterian Church participated in this experiment to learn more about what it means to be without a home and bring attention to the growing crisis of the unhoused in our community. Night Without a Bed is a project of Family Promise, an organization this congregation has supported over the past several years. For over 3 decades, Family Promise has provided shelter for homeless families in apartments until the family is able to take over the rental of the apartment or until they find permanent housing elsewhere. Family Promise is unique in that while other organizations often split families up, separating them by gender before allowing them to take shelter, they are committed to safely keeping families together through this vulnerable time in their lives. Your gifts in today's offering plate will go to strengthen our partnership with Family Promise as we seek to follow Jesus' teachings, including sheltering the homeless, because no child, no family should worry about where they will be sleeping next. Thank you for your generosity. So, couple of examples. Thoughts. What did those work for you? Did they not? What did you like about either of them?
The second story, you really got a sense of that person, their plight, where they were in life, where they are in their situation, and you can kind of put yourself a little bit in that person's shoes to kind of understand the situation. They made a very deep, you said the details in there. So you kind of really got a feel for that, where that person was and what they were experiencing. I thought that was
Absolutely.
good.
Mhm. I was talking about real people, being very detailed and setting the scene. And something I want to point out, with the Witherspoon video, which I love, is I understand not everyone has the budget to produce a video quite like that. But you probably do have some folks in your congregation who have some kind of skills, especially post-COVID. It's inevitable, but there are folks who know a thing or two about how to put a video together, especially if folks have been creating videos for worship. So don't be afraid to utilize those in your congregations and help steward those gifts that they have to help share your story. Right? You wanted to attend, yes. And they were very intentional about using various voices throughout the congregation. Great. All right. So from here, gonna share my screen once again. No, we're not. It just wants to play this video again. Well, so what we're going to do, I'll just say it, is we're going to go into small groups, and you'll have about 15 minutes or so to either craft a story or craft a communications plan. I have a Google document. I am throwing the link in the chat here. And so, depending on what breakout room you're in, you are going to be assigned that situation that's in that Google Doc. However, if you want to try telling a story from your own congregation, and you can get the other folks in your small group to help craft that, or help you craft a plan around something that's coming up, I encourage you to do that as well. I just know that sometimes it's hard when we all come from different faith communities to come together on one story. So I wanted to provide some examples for you to work with, but also keeping in mind that you are more than welcome to craft your own. So we'll break for about 15 minutes. Jean is going to welcome back.
Needed more time.
I almost gave you all 20 minutes, but then I was worried that was going to be too much. Great. Well, I'm happy to see everyone came back. Thank you. So is there a group who would like to start? Maybe just kind of say, all right, April, go ahead.
I'll go first. Okay, so our group was Craig and Richard and Nancy and myself. And we determined that the problem or the thing that we had to solve was supporting youth going to the Triennium. And we established that, first of all, the characters would be, we wanted to find a way to encourage youth that had not attended Triennium before to want to do it. So that was part of the challenge, so that they would have, to entice them to actually want to go. So the characters, we're looking for 3 students that would want to go, and we thought that would be a good number since they would support one another and know each other. The challenge was to not only help the congregations to help them fundraise and find opportunities for them to fundraise themselves so that they are invested in the process, but also to ask for congregational support. And we also determined that it could be not just the local congregation, that we could go to other congregations in the presbytery. So the action plan would have to involve someone to go out and speak about this, maybe take a youth that is interested in going and talking about it with another congregation or a couple of different congregations to garner support and interest. And then we didn't quite get too much farther than that, but we did talk about the impact at one point, having someone actually share, having gone to Triennium, what that meant for them in terms of their own personal growth as a Christian. Guys, did I leave anything out? Nancy, Rich?
Pretty good, April. You know, one of the things that we talked about was with the characters, kids that would be interested in going, to kind of express what they were expecting to get out of the trip.
Yes.
And then when we had someone at the end with the impact to say, hey, this is what I got out of it. So you're hearing someone expecting and then what someone actually got out of it. And we thought that would have a good impact on, you know, the people that were listening to the story.
I love that.
Yeah, and we thought that in having them invest in doing the fundraising, some of it themselves, is getting them involved personally, rather than just passing the hat and saying, okay, we want to raise such and such an amount of money for the kids to go.
I'll say, so if you're on Facebook and you don't already, I would highly encourage you to follow Presbyterian Youth Triennium, because they're doing testimonials, video testimonials with youth who are on the planning team. And it's that idea that y'all were just talking about, like they're talking about what they're anticipating, what they're excited for, what they hope to get out of it. And it's really encouraging. And I think that, you know, you can have kids film themselves on their iPhones. While they're at Triennium, they can do like here's a little day in the life or something that you then share on your church's social media page. So folks can see, oh, we gave gifts and look at what's coming out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great. All right. Next group, who wants to go next?
Well, I'll go next. This is Gilda. And I attended a group that included Heather, Maureen, and Harvey. And initially, we had talked about one of the scenarios, but I shared with them that the reason I chose to join this webinar was because my church in September 2021 suffered the ravages of Hurricane Ida. We're in Englewood, New Jersey, downtown, and Ida came through and destroyed our basement. And so for the past 4 years, we've been worshiping via Zoom. And in the meantime, we've been working with FEMA to try to rebuild. And so over the past 4 years, we have gotten to the point where FEMA has agreed to fund us to the tune of roughly $500,000.
Oh, wow.
To rebuild the church. And so we are blessed in the sense that that's the total amount of the damage. FEMA will fund that 90%. And so that leaves the church 10%, roughly $50,000 that we have to raise. And so we are basically a small congregation of about 30 something people. But in the meantime, over the past 4 years, we have successfully completed and funded the debris removal process, the mold remediation process, some of the contents. And now we're at the point where we're signing a contract with the contractor to begin the rebuild. And the rebuild part is the $498,000 part, and I just rounded it up to $500,000. And so the group thought that was a compelling enough story that we would share. So we figured that the character in the story was the church, and the church's mission. One of our primary missions was that every Monday we had a program that we did called Loaves and Fishes, where we fed between 35 to 35 to 50 people every week. And the majority of those people who we served were people who attended a program with Vantage Health Systems. I think they're kind of a national chain. A lot of times they deal with people having health problems, but primarily mental health challenges. And their offices were about a half a block up the street from the church. So they were the primary, I would always call them guests, primary guests that we would serve. And so we're trying to really get back into the business so that we can get back to completing that mission and that ministry. And so the challenge is, how do we tell this story and get it out to a broader audience? Because obviously our church, while we have a little bit of funds, we cannot fund $50,000.
Right.
So the purpose of telling the story is to go out to the broader community.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So did y'all come up with any ideas for how to go about telling the story?
Well, I'll let some of the others share what they shared.
So, Heather, hi. So we thought that if Gilda could reach out, they've been walking alongside their co-executive presbyter, and maybe that co-executive presbyter could hook them up with someone who would volunteer their time to help make the short video. Gilda had the idea of being able to put it on some kind of platform of a secular nature, like a GoFundMe page. And we encouraged her also to use the denominational resources, Presbytery Synod and you, Lauren, at the GA, to maybe use Facebook pages and other social media once this short video was created, to help garner folks who might have a heart for this and want to share from their mission budget or individually. And Dave Harvey had a comment about his church.
Yeah, we had the same thing happen to us a few years back, which flooded the first floor of where my office is, and discovered that PDA, number one, is very helpful in getting us going, just at the initial first responding team. Also, a number of congregations throughout the denomination had somehow gotten wind of it and simply wanted to help out and sent contributions.
Wow.
Because we had what turned out to be about a 300, I think it was what was it? No, that was the first one. I think it was about $175,000 that it took to rebuild our basement. And actually, as challenging as it was actually also a kind of every cloud has a silver lining, and the flood actually was a good thing for us because we needed to redo the downstairs anyway. Might not have had it not flooded. So it was a crisis that out of that came opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, and there's opportunities for collaboration here. Like, our congregation went through this. We've seen it. We've seen people rise out of this. I think I'm incredibly moved, Gilda, about the fact that you're not necessarily wanting to rebuild the church so you have a place to worship, even though that's great, but you're wanting to rebuild the church so that you can serve your community. That is a really beautiful thing. And so I think I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm glad that y'all used a real example to work on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we are a small congregation, so this feeding program of loaves and fishes was actually a collaboration of 2 or 3 Presbyterian churches. The Presbyterian Church in Teaneck and the Presbyterian Church in Leonia. And they have been, very helpful in this regard too. They know what our plight is and has kind of agreed to kind of help out too. So it's our church, but it's, we're in collaboration with other Presbyterian churches as well.
Maybe one of those churches has the teenager college kid we need to do this video.
Perhaps. Perhaps.
It's entirely possible. I mean, there's so many gifts that we don't even know about in our congregations. And especially young folks, they all know how to crop and edit and put music.
I apologize for being ageist, but on the other hand.
Great. All right. What about the next group?
I can speak for the third group, Group 3. We were made up of Nicholas and Karen and me, Don from Ogden Memorial. And we discussed the scenario that was the third on the sheet of examples. where the characters were the director of Christian education, the young people in the church, or students, I guess we can call them, and volunteers who helped with Christian education. And so the church was faced with the problem, which was more and more young people were showing up for church each Sunday, which is a good problem to have. So
Right.
that was a good thing. So that wasn't actually the problem, of course. But what they were shooting for, what they were trying to accomplish was, how to keep that going, how to keep the students going, and then ultimately have a confirmation class, which they had desired to run. So we thought the characters again were the director of Christian education, kind of one of the central characters, because this person has attracted the young people each Sunday, figured out a way to keep them coming back, has recruited volunteers, and has a plan to start a confirmation class. So that person there's a lot going on there, a good story to tell. So we thought we could focus a campaign around that person, and have that person speak about what got them into Christian education and what they're doing to make it successful. But we thought we would also expand that to include, we'd like to hear from the actual young people that are showing up and have them talk about why they're showing up, and what they're getting out of the program. And then also the volunteers, what made them want to volunteer, what has that done for them personally as a volunteer. So we discussed having that story shared in worship. It could be a series of speakers over several weeks. We talked about the video. We liked the Witherspoon Church approach. And while we may not be as professional in our delivery of a video, we could see the value in doing something like that. And so then ultimately, taking action here is the idea to raise money to pay for the growing Christian education program, to fund the Christian education director. And that's really the ultimate goal here. We would want to continue the story, throughout the year and get some follow-up from confirmation class members.
Oh, I love that.
Ultimately. So anyway, then we got the signal that 8 seconds were remaining and we concluded.
Well, thank you. This one came to mind because I actually was talking to a pastor who was, trying to figure out how to express to folks how their gifts support their Christian education program, and didn't want to just do it on Stewardship Sunday or in Stewardship season, but was trying to figure out ways to share those stories outside of that. And so at the start of the school year, they did a Minute for Mission, and throughout the year, posted pictures throughout. They had screens in their building and posted pictures and let folks know that your gifts, your pledges, help make this ministry possible. This faith formation is happening because of you. And yeah, it's not just something that we talk about on Stewardship Sunday. It's something we celebrate year round.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, screens throughout the church. That just made me think that's something we don't have, but that's a good use of that equipment.
Absolutely. And yeah, don't underestimate pictures, even if it's on bulletin boards or what have you, but pictures of your folks and the ministries that you support, I think can go a long way.
Exactly. I agree.
Thank you. All right. The final group, I think it's group 4. It might be group 2.
The group that I was part of was just myself and Monica. So we unfortunately didn't go to the Google Doc. We got carried away in our conversation.
Totally fine.
In our churches. And I think, and Monica, please jump in if I misspeak on anything. Some of the things that we were covering was, I spoke about my church in particular having kind of fallen apart during COVID with the change of leadership, a minister retiring, and then a divide in the church and the loss of a big part of the congregation. So our challenge was in the 2 years ago for stewardship in the fall, how to reach the people. And we came up with the idea to do testimonies of, so it's I guess the character is the stewardship committee, and what are we going to do to attract young people for the growth of the church and keep people in the church, not just visit one Sunday and then off they go. How do we keep them? So the testimonies turned out to be invaluable. We had 4 Sundays in October, and this past October also, where I spoke at both of them to get the ball rolling, so to speak. And I've been a member of our church since 1984. So all of a sudden I found myself as one of the sweet old ladies in the congregation and not one of the young families that we think of ourselves as. So I had a lot to say and about different moments in my life in the church about why I stayed. Church family done for me. And why are we so adamant about keeping these 4 walls open? And where is our future? And we feel that it is young people. So we're taking action with our session in being more inclusive, more activities for the community. In June, we have a Pride Sunday coming up for the whole community, because we're in competition with, we're not the only church in Ringwood, obviously, but so many young people seem to be going to a more charismatic environment. We offer, and being a more traditional environment, but everybody's welcome. It's just, how do we entice the younger families? And one thing that I gleaned from tonight was following up through the year. I think was one of my big takeaways. And then, as Monica had said, in her church, they got a grant for free Google ads, a program.
Awesome.
In Google. She also suggested that we take these testimonies that I have from the past 2 years into one video, piggybacking on the Witherspoon Church, searching for grants, too, would be, I think, a very beneficial thing for the church and keeping it open.
Yeah. Monica, do you have anything to add?
No, that's about it. I told her we already had something similar to the other Witherspoon.
Okay.
Witherspoon, but ours was a joint. If you go on our website now, Witherspoon Church, we have something we did with Nassau, and it tells the story of the 2 churches. So I was thinking that maybe we need to either take parts from that or just I need to add our story on there. I need to look at that. But I do have parts of our story in our pages. So every time and this is all from this, I was telling Charlotte, we're doing this program called Grow. It's sponsored by Church Fuel. We pay them. It's not it's cheap, but we got a grant to help us with that. And it's a bunch of churches, not Presbyterian church, but other churches that are growing and are using different things to do that. And so one of the things they have is the big things in the church world. Like, Easter was a big thing, and Mother's Day is a big thing, and Father's Day is somewhat of a big thing. And then, Christmas and those things. And we do like a separate page for each one of those on our website when it comes up, and we invite people. And then what I do is we do ads in Google pointing to that page, and we invite people that way.
Nice.
So,
yeah.
But so I'm going to have to go back and look at changing it and making more, get some younger. We don't have that many young people, but I'm gonna get some people to do the story for us.
Yeah. Well, and it's been a while since I've worked with Google Ads. I feel like Google Ads is a little bit limited as far as, because you can only use so many characters in the advertisement, but then whatever page it's pointing to, making sure that has the story that you want to share.
Yeah. And Google's added different things too. Like now you can have a map. You can have a map ad. And we're also thinking about doing a prayer ad. So we're doing different things too with it. And all this is beginning from this group, this GROW program with Church Fuel. So all that's coming from that. So yes.
Can I just throw something in really quick? I'm sorry to interrupt, Lauren. Our church, we have one big, huge, gigantic fundraiser called the Peach Festival every summer. Heather, you remember that?
Yeah.
And the committee this year has asked various people to provide a special memory of Peach Festival that we're running week after week in the bulletin. And with the intent of getting people interested, engaged, and people who are newer to the congregation to drag them in. I think it's a great idea, and it's working.
I mean, nostalgia does a lot of things for people, and one of the great things about telling stories is the emotion that it brings about. I love that, and then there are so many other ways that you can use those, right? Like if you have someone who can create a graphic and share those testimonials through a graphic on social media, or breaking up the video, Monica, that you have into like little sound bites. And so it's not just we're always sharing this whatever 4-minute video, but here's a little 30-second snippet here or 20-second snippet there that help tell that story. There's so many possibilities. I love that. Well, Nancy, when's the Peach Festival? Trying to figure out if I can get up there.
Oh, funny you should ask. First Saturday in August, every year. First Saturday in August. Ice cream and lots of treasures.
It's big. It's big.
Is there still pie?
We go every year. Yeah.
I love that.
Is there still pie, Nancy?
Yep. Yes. We have pie. We cut the COVID really chopped it. We don't have an auction anymore, but we have homemade ice cream, pie, white elephant. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. It's also a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding.
And obviously very special, not just for your congregation, but for...
Oh, we have people who come. Oh, we come from the Bronx every year,
I love it.
It's like, it's amazing, but it's fun.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you all participating in the exercise. Sometimes I know small groups aren't for everyone, but it seemed like everyone had a really fruitful conversation in their small groups. So thank you so much. I just have a couple more things I want to share, and then we'll close out. I just want to leave y'all with a few parting tips. If this works. So just a reminder, tell real stories about real people. And if you don't know some stories, that's your opportunity to get to know folks. For instance, if you're, volunteering at a local domestic violence shelter, kind of the situation I mentioned earlier, of course, not using someone's real name, but going and saying like, how'd you get here? How are they supporting you? And being able to take that and change names and be able to tell that very real story. Or, like Charlotte giving her own testimonial. I think testimonials are a beautiful thing. And there's so many different ways that we can do it. We can do it written, like for the Peach Festival and the bulletin. We can do it video, like the youth are doing for Triennium. So there's lots of opportunities there. Use emotion carefully. Focus on the details. So, again, especially if you're doing something like a minute for mission or something along those lines, preaching, setting the scene, as much detail as you possibly can so that folks can put themselves in those positions. They can smell it, they can hear it, they can taste it. Connect it back to your mission. There's so many times it's just, this is what we do, but we don't really know why. And so always reminding folks of why we do what we do. And that why, of course, is always because we're called to do so by Jesus Christ. But also if your congregation has a particular mission or a statement or a particular passion, bringing it back to that. And then embracing visual storytelling. So whether that's pictures on bulletin boards or videos on social media, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So don't be afraid to take pictures. Sometimes it's awkward, but phone cameras are getting better all the time. And I think that, there are so many things that we look back and we're like, oh, we wish we had a picture of this. So don't be afraid to take pictures and then share those because you're not just sharing the picture, you're sharing the story. A couple of book recommendations I have for you. The first one, Between the Listening and the Telling, by Mark Yaconelli, is a beautiful book. It's super easy read. It's great as, just reading on your own, but also if, you have a book club or a couple folks in your congregation who are also interested in storytelling, I think that this is a great read. And it's very, rather than telling you necessarily how to tell a story, line by line, he demonstrates it through his own storytelling. Really beautiful book. And then this book, Building a Story Brand 2.0, is a more corporate book, but there's a lot of great nuggets in here. And this new version, this 2.0 version, just came out at the beginning of this year. So I've read the first one that came out in 2017 or 2018. So I don't know exactly what all is in this new one, but I am encouraged that it just came out. So it should include, things such as COVID and the division in our politics and things like that as you figure out how to craft your stories. And then biggest thing of all, thank you so much for letting me be here with y'all. I am happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to take my information down. Jean also has it, but I want to be a resource for you. I would love to hear, if as you think about how you're doing this in your congregation, I would love to be a sounding board and hear how you took what we learned tonight and implemented it. At Gilda, I would love to hear a follow-up on your campaign. I want to know what's going on and how I might be better able to support you, because that's at the end of the day what I'm here to do. Yes, I'm here to raise money, but I can't do it without the support of folks like you and making sure that you are feeling called into this mission together. So thank you so much. Are there any final questions? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, it was a great workshop. I appreciate all your input and definitely going to be using you as a resource, Lauren. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. And Craig, I already wrote down your information too. So I'm seriously going to reach out about per capita interpretation.
Okay, great. I'll be happy to discuss that with you.
Great. And then I'll send the PowerPoint around and I'll also, the Witherspoon video is in it, but I'll also make sure to include that link separately in case anyone has any trouble watching it through the PowerPoint.
Great.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Echo Patrick's remarks. Great video. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Okay.
Night.
Good night.
God bless.
Take care.